Joey, we're back.
Yes, sir.
We got a Indiana Jones type talk
Episode here.
today.
Yeah.
You know,
that was a good movie.
And you know, it's crazy. We were just kind of talking about it with the pyramid thing.
Yeah,
about the Area 51.
It's kind of like a segue into this episode a little bit.
A little segue.
We weren't going to go this direction, but
no, not at all. We were going to do spooky, but
it's funny. It was like an Easter egg in the last podcast.
We do dad jokes and Easter eggs now. Ain't that something? Dad jokes and Easter eggs. Yeah. But you know, through the pyramid stuff, there was also a report about the Ark of the Covenant and remote viewing.
Yeah.
Now, remote viewing, you know what that's about? We've heard about, you know, Project Stargate.
I think we've
touched on it.
A project in the 90s that was declassified by the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
And more or less they were trying to figure out like if people could find things in the world, right? And then they used it to, like, one of the files that was declassified was that they were using remote viewers and they were asking people to see if they can see where the Ark of the Covenant is.
Right.
And it's like I read some of it. Some of it is like there wasn't any conclusive
keep going.
evidence.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
So some of it there wasn't any conclusive evidence to finding if the Ark of the Covenant was actually legitimately somewhere lost, or, you know, people were like, they were giving vague answers, like they were giving conversations that took place about where it could be. So it kind of threw me off when I read some of that, because I was like, are people still talking about the Ark of the Covenant? Like, if you're remote viewing, are you remotely viewing something that's live and actually happening now, or are you remotely viewing instances in the past as well?
I think what this report said is that it's seen the location of the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, like, there were some remote viewers that were like, that gave an area of where they thought that it would be. So it's interesting, and I don't know if I buy or believe in remote viewing, but the government definitely thought it was viable to spend taxpayer dollars
to do this.
I couldn't and a remote viewing program, you know, to figure out where things are, or where something like the Ark of the Covenant would be.
Right.
You know?
Sorry, I couldn't sit still. And God said, "Let there be light."
There we go.
And it's the one thing I forgot to do. Is turn the light on.
We
got to get your pretty better. Face.
No,
Joey.
It's not. Listen, it's a little chubby now.
No, it's okay, buddy.
I got to get back on my gains like you guys.
No,
you and Nick.
I don't know.
We reverse roles.
This is crazy, right? You know what's crazy? Just then we'll get back to the Ark of the Covenant, because no one wants to hear.
Because like last year, I was fucking. I was shredded pretty much. You know, like
you both told me. First, you did. You told me you got to do the calorie counting thing.
Yeah, it works.
And I was like,
that's it. That's
no,
where it is.
And now I'm doing it, and then added stress, a lot of stress, dude.
Yeah, it's work.
And anyways, yeah, I'm kind of lean now. I'm kind of like 155.4 pounds.
It's addictive, isn't it?
It is. It's like cocaine. That's what I'm doing at home now. My protein. I'm like, protein. Now I know why Nick's MIA.
Yeah, guys, he's kidding, but
yeah, no.
Hopefully, he's just on mushrooms.
I don't do cocaine. Anyways, So the Ark of the Covenant, they actually spent the money and the time and the sources to have psychics, because you have to have some kind of a person with an ability or some type of, you know, sensitivity to this stuff.
Right.
Because that's really what it is. And this all started because of the Project Stargate thing, where it was during the Cold War. It was in the 70s, where we were trying to get the one up on like the Russians. And then we were like, well, how can we do it? And then they went for this radical idea by saying, well, maybe people with abilities, or if we have these programs, we can project ourselves and see what's going on and get their plans and their data and use it to, you know, do certain things.
Even the Nazis were interested in the Ark of the Covenant. It kind of makes you wonder, like, what is it really just? Because for those who don't know, the Ark of the Covenant contains the 10 Commandments, right?
We touched on that, yeah.
And I know Hitler was interested in the Ark of the Covenant, spent like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hitler was
trying to find the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, so Hitler.
I mean, maybe a little less than hundreds of millions, but I know that it was a part of it was a big part of why. So, like, Germany didn't really have a lot of money, like, towards the end of World War II, because this guy was spending money on ventures about, like, not prehistoric, but, like, you know, ancient relics.
Yeah, so Hitler, we can do a whole episode on Hitler.
Yeah, it's wild.
And because, yes, the guy was the absolute definition of evil. But the crazy thing about him is the Indiana Jones movies, and I had actually said this on like season 1 or 2 when I was by myself on this podcast, is that Hitler had a crazy infatuation with the supernatural. And in the Indiana Jones movies, they use that truth, that fact, in the movies.
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant was like this gateway.
He sought out the Ark of the Covenant. He sought out the Grail. He sought out religious things in the Bible that have some sort of a power. He felt that if he can find the Ark of the if he can find the Ark of the Covenant, that he could use it to potentially win World War II. So in the process of fighting a war and doing what he was doing with the mass extermination of Jewish people, which was diabolical, he had Nazi soldiers, special soldiers, seeking out certain things that were supernatural.
There's a lot about the Ark of the Covenant. There's like rumors of like sickness that came along with people who opened it, and like similar to like radiation sickness.
Well, you weren't allowed to touch it. It was carried on poles or staffs that were put through the loops of the Ark of the Covenant, right? And then only certain people were allowed to watch over it. It was always put in a tent when it was being transported.
Right.
It was put in a tent. You had to wear special clothes, and people that did get too close ended up getting boils or a sickness or some sort. And that's why people like Billy Carson said that the Ark of the Covenant was potentially not the vessel for the 10 Commandments, but potentially a nuclear device, because what the Bible was describing, that to the people that didn't follow the guidelines of the Ark of the Covenant, was they were describing nuclear sickness, like radiation poisoning, and people would get boils, and then they would pass.
It's biblical accounts, actually.
Yeah, and this was all documented in the Bible. So possibly, quite possibly, there was. You know, I'm very, to me, I have the faith. I have I have the faith still, but you know, it makes sense for it to match radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
But also there's things.
It could be much older than we know.
Right. Like there's things that we don't know. There's these supernatural powers, you know, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, when they opened it and they made that mistake, Indiana was like telling Miriam, like, don't look, right? Don't look. And he knew, and you know,
they all got torched.
Everyone got torched. They seen the skeletons, the wrath of God. They opened it up. Ironically, there was no 10 Commandments in the movie.
No,
you didn't see it. They didn't. You know what I mean?
They didn't go the technological route in Indiana Jones, but it still kind of makes sense what they tried to do in Indiana Jones. The wrath of God could just be potentially like when did you see Oppenheimer, the movie?
Nah.
Great movie. It's long.
That's what I was just about to say. Anything that's that long, like the Titanic, but we talked about the Titanic too, right?
It's so fascinating because it's like they knew what they were trying to do, and they thought that what they were creating would effectively like create world peace forever. Like whoever wields this technology is going to change the world so radically that there will be peace among nations. And they just opened up Pandora's box for other nations trying to figure out how to make the exact same thing. And now what we have is just a standoff all the time with countries at the whim, ready to be like, hey, I'm gonna nuke you, and I'm gonna nuke you. And it's just like these, right now, thank God it's empty threats, but eventually will we get some type of crazy radical political figure that decides to just, you know what? And nuclear bombs are not what they used to be. Like what happened in Hiroshima, like obviously tragic, but we know the whole storyline. You know, they bombed us, and that was our kind of way of showing the retaliation, and then on top of that, showing the world this new mighty force that the United States has. And the Ark of the Covenant has like a lore to it in the same fashions or the same facet sense that Oppenheimer's nuclear bomb did, in the way that whoever wielded the Ark of the Covenant was potentially granted all these different types of powers. Not granted powers, but you know what I mean? Like, there was protection that came with the Ark of the Covenant. You know,
I actually want to.
It was almost considered like a weapon. There's instances in the Bible that will relate the Ark of the Covenant to being a weapon.
I actually want to see who was actually allowed to be around the Ark of the Covenant, because there was very, like I said,
but it went from hand to hand to hand, and maybe, like we talked about in the last podcast, maybe it started in Egypt. Maybe that's the original holding place of the Ark of the Covenant, right? Like that box that's in the Great Pyramid.
I do have the answers.
Has the same dimensions.
I do have the answers. So, the number one person, Moses, received the original instructions from God to build the ark on Mount Sinai, and this is from Exodus. Moses never carried the ark himself, but oversaw its construction and its use during the Israelites during the wilderness, the travels. The Levites, especially I can't pronounce that. Nick. This is where Nick comes in. You know. Levites, specifically the Kohathites, I butchered that. But anyways, the roles were assigned by God to carry the ark and care for the tabernacle. And that's from the book of Numbers. The high priest, especially Aaron and his descendants, the role he could approach the ark inside the Holy of Holies, but only under strict conditions, which was like wearing clothing.
Right.
And being in the tent where no one else can see.
Right.
King David, he brought the ark to Jerusalem. It's the book of Samuel.
You handle nuclear material under specific conditions.
That's just decisions. Yep, exactly. King David retrieved the ark and had been neglected, and he brought it to the capital with the great ceremony. He danced before it, which became a famous biblical moment. King Solomon, he built the first temple. Book of Kings, he placed the ark in the inner sanctuary, the holies of holies, in the new temple. This was considered the ark's final official resting place. The Philistines captured the ark in battle, Book of Samuel. They took it after defeating Israel, but were plagued with disasters like tumors.
They didn't know how to handle it.
And mice, which is kind of weird. Radioactive mice, you know, until they returned it out of fear. They returned it out of fear because they were getting the boils, they were getting tumors, You know what I mean? And then the mice, which is kind of like, all right.
And you got to wonder, like, why would Hitler want a device like that, or just any kind of relic that brings that kind of like bad juju,
right? And
because he probably knew something.
Like I said, he had a crazy fascination, which also meant that Hitler, ironically, as evil as he was, had to have done what? Read the Bible.
Yeah.
To know this.
But it wasn't just him. Like, there's gotta be, like, especially when you're spending money like that, there's gotta be a group of individuals that have the same belief systems as you, and they're like, you know what? We are gonna do this. We are gonna find it. We're gonna find all these types of things.
I don't think he was using money. I think he was using resources. Instead of putting it into the war front, he took resources he took soldiers, he took tanks. They didn't go just soldiers like Mully and Sculder investigating stuff. He pulled soldiers, specific people from the Nazis or the SS men, and made them go to certain areas to look and excavate. The money part was probably having people dig or researchers paying them, because it's totally irrelevant.
Salaries and stuff like that.
It's totally irrelevant to the war.
The travel.
Exactly. So he's sending people to Egypt. He's sending people to other parts of the world.
It may not have been irrelevant to the war. He probably. No. I mean, if you think about Germany and how advanced they were during World War II, they had jet engine technology first. they had, possibly the start of a space program that we had no idea about. The
Didn't
United
they have
States.
a UFO? Wasn't there like video?
It was called the Glocka, the bell. Yeah, like they were probably making devices that they could fly in. I mean, we know that for a fact because in World War II, when their jets came by doing hundreds of miles per hour that we couldn't keep up with, we were like, holy shit, how do we... Eventually, the Americans, the Red Tails, they outsmarted them. I don't know if you know that story. The group of, African-American pilots that, like, figured out how to outflank these powerful jets that Hitler had.
No, never heard that.
It's great story. There's a movie on it as well. But when these jets came by, everybody's like, what the was that? Like, something that fast, it seems like unconceivable back then. It's a new tech, right?
Right.
And
that was Air Jersey drones.
We didn't have it.
Yeah.
Right? The reason why we have a space program is because of Operation Paperclip. We took all the German researchers and all the scientists from Germany, we brought them over here, and we made them, create a space program or continue working on whatever they were working on in Germany. And lo and behold, like, we're in a space race, to the moon with Russia, etc. So there was gamesmanship to be had out of the war. It wasn't as cut and dry as, like, let's go to the war to be the heroes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
intel, information.
Yeah, and you need this gamesmanship to be a powerful nation, right? Like, you can't let the world think that you're not the superpower.
Right.
And how does America do that? By getting every resource and every new technology they possibly can. In the same way that Hitler was trying for his nation to do that very same thing. But it seems like they were worlds ahead of everybody else. And then you ask yourself, like, how? Like, why were they so more advanced than the West?
Well, the question is if he actually did find something and was using the technology. Maybe it wasn't biblical, but maybe it was something supernatural.
Yeah.
Now, we actually on the pyramid.
We went off a tangent, but it's like it's all relatable.
No,
we're talking about the probability of the Ark of the Covenant being.
This is all
this technological
very relevant
device.
to the conversation, because the report, I actually read the report. I had seen the report posted on Instagram like last week or a week and a half ago, but did I go and read the actual report? And it was like, this was, they actually released a document. I have it. I'll pull it up on YouTube. Just the first page, but there's the documentation, the handwritten clarification that one of their remote viewers wrote down and saw the Ark of the Covenant. You
gotta wonder, like,
not where it was.
They'd follow up on that too. Like, the United States would definitely go follow up on that and see if, like, let's go see if this thing is there. You're not going to just
that person.
You're not just going to spend all this money on
right,
on a program,
like
a secret program.
Is it real? Did they see it? Did they see the whereabouts? I don't know about the whereabouts. But speaking of the whereabouts,
remote viewing just weirds me out because it's just like one of those things. It's like telepathy or telekinesis or being
astral projection
or being psychic. It's all in that same realm.
I don't want to talk about the psychic stuff. I had like one instance in the last 2 months, and I feel like I'm picked up on some psychic abilities. I don't even want to talk about it. Like, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like it. But anyways, we did talk about I kind of have to correct myself, like where the final resting place is, even though I said no one really knows. But thanks to ChatGPT,
there we go.
Because I won't open up the Bible right now to even try to find it. But what happened to it, right? Well, the Ark whereabouts after the destruction of Solomon's temple in 587 BC are unknown. Well, I was kind of right. Leading to the century of mystery, speculation, and legend. Some believe it's hidden under the Temple Mount. Others claim it was taken to Ethiopia, where the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion claims to house it. And I think I mentioned that. Like, they say that it's in Ethiopia or Nigeria or whatever. And there was an.
I know where it is.
Area 51.
Area 51. They showed us in Indiana Jones.
They showed us.
That Shia LaBeouf.
Spielberg, yeah.
This underrated flick, bro.
I actually like that one. My favorite's always going to be The Last Crusade.
Yeah, that's
hands down always going to be my favorite one. That's it. So, like, the Ark of the Covenant, unknown location. Will we ever find it? Probably not. Will we ever find the Grail, where the cup he drank out of at the Last Supper? Probably not, because
it's so crazy how these relics are somewhere in this world, but they're not, like, for public display, or someone is gatekeeping the information on where this thing is. It kind of like feeds into the lore of like, all right, if the Ark of the Covenant is somewhere and people know where it is, it's almost this secret that's too big to keep, but yet they're keeping it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, why are they keeping this secret? You know, why isn't it, did it ever exist? I think we know that it did exist, right?
Right.
That's factual. And it's somewhere on this planet. And for thousands of years, people have come up dry. No one's been around it. No one's seen it. There's no pictures of it. There's nothing, you know?
Well, there's
photographic evidence obviously has not been around very long, but like you would think that with the way archaeology is now, that somebody'd be like, I gotta find this thing. I want to be the guy that finds the Ark of the Covenant.
It's definitely in the Bible. I mean, there's the Bible has it that it was made, it was carried, it was traveled with. What happened if you didn't obey the laws, that the guidelines, not laws, but the guidelines to carrying it and doing things with it. And the fact of the matter is that these remote viewers claim to have either proved its existence or know where it is. And that's not the only thing that's hidden away. I mean, remember, there's like this, I don't know how true it is.
You would hide it, though. If you're a government and it's an ancient relic, you would hide it if it's technological in nature, especially if you want to keep people docile and believing in the same old things.
I was just going to say that it's probably in the Vatican, hidden, guarded, just with that thing that's also another remote viewer story. Remember that there's a story of a time machine, not necessarily a time machine where you can go back in time, but a time machine that lets you view time. Mm-hmm. And they said that someone had found it and opened it up to the crucifixion of Christ.
Right.
And it was like when the Vatican saw that, they took it, and it's buried under the depths of the Vatican, never to be let go, because what was seen through this remote viewing device, this time machine device, where, I mean, I wouldn't know how it would work.
It's like that movie Paycheck with Ben Affleck.
It's like the Dial of Destiny.
Oh yeah, that too.
The last one, you know, and who was at it?
There's been so many movies like this.
Yeah, and who was at it again? It was a Nazi, a German soldier that wanted to go back in time to win World War II with some ancient relic that would be able to do it. Yeah. And then they messed up. They ended up going into like a Roman time with some war going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Turned out to just be one portal that they could be opened back and forth.
Well, they got back. They did get back somehow, some way. But I think that movie was not necessary. Dario was right with that one.
Yeah.
You know?
It was okay. But it wasn't like, you know, that Indiana Jones that hits, you know.
I told Dario what they could have did for that movie.
I enjoyed the one with Shia LaBeouf more than I did that one, I'll be honest.
Yes, I would have to agree with that one. I think they could have went so many different directions in that movie. They could have had Anthony Ingruber play him in the beginning as opposed to using CGI. They could have had more flashback scenes. It could have been more of a movie where he's doing what he has to do for the premise of the movie, but had a lot more flashback scenes, and it would have given people like the old Indy, and not do it CGI, although the CGI was pretty damn good, but they could have had Anthony Ingruber at least voice a young Harrison Ford, because that guy does a spot-on Harrison Ford impersonation, and then use Harrison Ford for the
they could have. It's budgeting stuff though too. It's cheap to do CGI. You know what I mean? They just pump out a movie, and
they actually did it very well. Like it was actually hard to believe. Like holy, you know, like that's him. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's some shows like some Marvel movies that have came out, even TV shows that I like like Daredevil, Born Again, with the CGI is kind of sketchy, but whatever they did for that movie, they did a great job.
Yeah,
just could have did
pricier.
They just could have did a lot better in my opinion, but.
That's the tip of the iceberg, though. 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to be so much better. It's going to be wild. You're going to be able to bring back people from the dead and make it look you know what I mean?
Scary.
That's scary.
Did you see that China made some kind of rideable robot?
Yeah, it's like a horse.
That's crazy.
We should use that to find the Ark of the Covenant.
I thought it was, yeah, right? All right there, Prancer. Onward. Like, you know, like you're riding a robot horse. Even horses are out of jobs now.
A horse is like... I get fired.
I'm replaced now. No hay necessary, just the charge.
That's funny.
No apples, no hay, no carrots. Like this is like I honestly thought when I saw that video that it was fake.
No, it's legit.
I really thought, I was like, this is
so this is
satire.
I
was like,
the video is CGI that they created, but there is footage of the actual device, like the horse, motorcycle, whatever the hell you want to call it.
It's so weird. It moves its legs. It's not a motorcycle.
No,
it's got
I mean,
legs.
but Kawasaki makes it, which is interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just weird. So it's one of those weird things. Did we need that? Like, I don't know. No one rides horses anymore.
Apparently.
I mean, I guess for fun, you ride horses, or like people in the Texas or the Midwest. Like, I don't know what the fuck they do over there, tipping cows and shit.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually enjoy riding a horse. I used to go over there to the horse stable in Pelham Bay over there, and a couple occasionally go on like the long. There's like an hour long.
Listen,
trail.
after what happened with Christopher Reed, I'm like,
I know you
man.
get scared. I mean,
I can't.
You know what? It's in everything in
If I
life.
get thrown, you know.
Yeah, in everything in life, there's a risk. There's a risk. There's risk reward. You know, but also there's big risks. And
with animals, though, it's so. I just feel like it's so. I'd rather jump, and I have. I went skydiving. I'd rather jump out of a plane than fucking.
No.
You know,
I'd ride a horse 20 times over instead of jumping out of a plane. I just had this conversation with people at work. They're like, yeah, we jumped out of a plane and it was great. And they were showing me the photos. And I'm like, no. There's nothing there is nothing you can do except I told one individual, I said, I tell you what. And he goes, I was like, I tell you what, you give me a briefcase with $1 million cash in it, cash money. Then I'll go up on the plane and I'll jump out and I'll just pray for the best. But
You'll enjoy it though.
But I'll be $1 million
probably
richer.
do it again.
Nah.
I'm telling you, you might.
No. Ask me how many times I've been on the Nitro at Six Flags.
I don't know how many times.
I went. The first time I went there was with my friend who came to Sleepy Hollow, Frank.
Yeah.
I went there. I'd never been on a roller coaster like that ever. Never been on a roller coaster at that point. I went once. I did it again. And now I'm like, no, I won't.
Never again.
Never again.
That's it.
I mean, I've been on roller coasters, but
Nitro's a good. That's a good ride.
That's a crazy drop.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But in reality, there's a risk reward to everything. It's just things you do are a greater risk.
Right.
You know, like you're going to have fun. You're going to have a sick adrenaline rush. But at the same token, there's a huge risk involved. Like if I do this, I could be paralyzed. I could parachute might not open. You know, we go to Egypt.
True.
The plane goes down.
That's rare.
Risk reward. The reward is we
Definitely not gonna
film an
happen.
episode in Egypt, and Zahir Wash comes and goes, "What are you doing?" And then you rip him apart.
I gotta go. You know, I gotta see where the Ark of the Covenant was like its resting place myself. You know, I do have this. There is this theory. You know, all those big giant granite boxes. You know how they were empty.
With the seraphim of Saqqara.
Yep. The rumor is that there was going to be this mass construction of all these types of devices, and they were going to be housed inside of those granite boxes. And if you think about a granite box, wouldn't a granite box, especially something that's that large and thick, be good at shielding radiation?
Does granite shield radiation, or only lead does?
I don't know. Check that out.
Let's check that out.
How good is granite at shielding radiation? Because those stones are those boxes are diorite.
Made of diorite.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Check that
does
out.
granite shield radiation? Yes, granite can shield radiation.
Boom.
But how effective?
I just came up with a theory.
But how effective is it? Is that your theory?
Maybe. Yeah, definitely is.
Well, just say copyright on the camera. We'll clip
fucking ideas, guys.
We'll clip it. We'll make it a nice little reel. Joey said it first. The Seraphim of Saqqara were meant for
Radioactive devices that went into the Great Pyramid.
AKA Arks of the Covenant. Because Billy Carson said there might be not just one Ark. He said, I remember.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's thought about this too. I don't know if he's ever said something like what I just said. Maybe it's a possibility.
So let's break it down real quick, right? So it says yes, granite can shield radiation, but how effective it depends on the type of intensity of radiation you're dealing with. So gamma radiation, Hulk shit. Granite offers some shielding, but not as effective as lead or concrete.
Right.
It's dense and does not protect from the gamma rays, but they achieve significant protection. In order to achieve significant protection, you need thick layers, several inches to feet, depending on the intensity. Alpha and beta radiation. Granite blocks alpha particles completely, as they can penetrate even paper. Beta particles can also be stopped or slowed significantly by granite due to its density. And then there's a couple of more. And I got a bonus fact. I'll read that. I'll skip over 3 and read the bonus fact. Granite naturally contains small amounts of radioactive elements. Like uranium thorium, and potassium-40. So while it can shield, some granite types may also emit low levels of radiation themselves.
Yeah, that I knew.
That was
because they're
cool
like, you got to be careful what, I don't know how true that is, but there's those health quacks out there that are like, you got to be careful what granite you choose because you don't want to have radioactive like granite in your house and shit.
There's
like
people that buy onyx and put it on their neck and they don't even know if it's real onyx, and they were like, this protects me from.
Meanwhile, it's giving them cancer.
Like, yeah, like, no, I don't know, man. No, everything gives you cancer. And I've watched plenty of videos of you drink too much water, cancer. If you eat this, cancer. I'm like,
that's it.
We're gonna die one day. Whatever. My mom tells me all the time. I picked up my dad this morning. Woke up just slightly late. I picked him up this morning. I didn't get my coffee, and I had to drive him to his medical procedures that he's taking. That he's doing now, and downstairs in the old studio, because that's my dad's now. It was never ours. It was his, and he reclaimed it. I told my mom, as she's helping him, go in the fridge because there's a boatload of First Form energy drinks there, And I was like, do me a favor. I was walking him out. I was like, just grab me one of the red cans. That's so bad for you. You gotta stop drinking.
My mom says the same.
You gotta stop drinking that shit. I said, Ma, I've been drinking that. I'm 38 years old. I probably started drinking pre-workouts and energy drinks at 16 years old. And guess what? I'm actually the healthiest I've been, in a long time. And then TMI. My mom always tells me, I'm having trouble doing this. I'm having trouble doing that. I was like, how much water did you drink today? I mean, let's entertain me real quick. Just how many? I mean, a cup if you're lucky. You know what I mean? Like, so don't preach to the choir about doing things different if you're not. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's that boomer generation.
Yeah, crazy. So, what do you think about remote viewing?
I think remote viewing.
You think it's yay, nay, BS?
I'm gonna stay neutral on it. I'm not gonna say it's BS because they spent money on it, and there's someone who's gonna make the argument. Well, then why would they go to the lengths of having these? And this is not the only remote viewing program that's been declassified for the CIA. They've been documenting remote viewing for like decades,
right?
And it's like, so they're spending some serious cash on. I mean, unless it's complete bullshit and it's just a cash grab for the government, right? Like, or people that are working on it and telling somebody else who's higher up, like, hey, we need to do this. This is legitimate. And somebody's just like, well, here's some money to do it.
I believe in remote viewing only because
but when it's the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency,
well, they have the access to the really smart people, and you get grabbed in, and you're like, have this.
That's the only thing that has me like, I can't definitively be like, yo, remote viewing is BS. But it might be.
I'll end off on my end on this. I know that I've had dreams that can classify it as remote viewing.
Yeah, when you have those dreams, like you're flying over your neighborhood or something,
and then you're seeing very accurate things. I think that would fall into the category of
remote viewing.
may have not have remote viewed in my dream, because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be awake. These people probably have to be in a trance or in a dark place, blindfolded, in a meditative state.
Right.
So I especially cannot knock, because Joanna told me something fairly recently in the last month or two, a couple of things, and they have came true. So I don't really knock. I did at one point. I totally was not a believer in psychics and all that, astral projection and all that into the psychic category. But there's been a couple of things that Joanne has said to me in the past 2 months that have actually been fucking spot on, like scary spot on. And I really can't knock anything I hear anymore. I will never say I don't believe. I'll entertain it until I don't believe because I've seen it with my own eyes. But when things are being said and things are happening, I'm like, whoa, okay. And like I said, and people come over to me all the time. Like I have, some coworkers like to entertain me and tell me weird things that happen to them, and then a lot of coworkers just avoid me for a good reason. I'm a weirdo. But at the end of the day, when they start the conversation off with, you're gonna think this is weird. I don't think I say to them, I have done.
Look at the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna think it's weird.
Exactly. I say I have a podcast about the unknown and the supernatural. I anything you tell me is definitely not going to be weird.
I might even talk about it.
There you go. Would you like to be on the podcast? That's what I told them. Oh, tell it on the podcast. But now it was a nice little short episode, buddy. We had to talk about that. We talked about the pyramids,
Definitely.
and that episode's doing pretty well because it was good news.
Good. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though Mike still doesn't believe
Still
it.
not debunked. It's still not debunked. Actually, it's the information is up for peer review. They gave all the scans to the Egyptian officials, and they don't want to look at it at all. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's what I said.
And my boy actually, before we end, I was having this debate with one of my friends. I was like, why would they fake this? I was like, all right, for some popularity and maybe a little fame or whatever the case may be. And so I get that aspect of it too, and that's always a possibility. And then he said, but also you have to ask the question of why wouldn't they tell the truth about this? And I was like, that's fair. And then he's like, do you know why? And I'm like, I mean, not really. I was like, why would they not? And that's another good question. Like, why would they not want to just tell us, right? Like, why? And then he's like, to keep people where they are. It's about control, right? If we find out some
I think
new
he did say this to me. Yeah. Maybe even last week you said that.
Yeah. And it was just a good point. He's like, people are not going to be the consumers that they are if the dynamic
changes.
Of our history changes, right? Because there'll be an awakening, right? People are they're going to want to know more. Like, who were we? Or we're much older, like finding the truth about certain religions, and maybe certain religions or religious beliefs get debunked. And that takes away money and power in certain instances. Like maybe people stop going to the church as often, stop donating, right? Like everything is kind of driven by economics and everything's driven by money. Let's just put it that way.
To piggyback off that, what did they try to tell us from 2020 to 2021? At one point, people were really like, okay, there's no end in sight. We've been locked in our houses for X amount of months now. We're going on a year. And then the news started saying, don't do your own research. Because if you do your own research, you're not going to be in your place no more. Yeah. They want us to stay in their lane.
You're a conspiracy theorist if you do your own research.
Right.
But it's also a way of telling the public, like, hey, you're not intelligent. There's people that are smarter than you. Just listen to what they say and take it at face value. To me, that just sounds like communism. I don't like the idea of someone being like, don't look it up yourself. Don't read it yourself.
I just want to say this. I'm going to end with this. My dad, no secret, it's been on social media. I've made it public now, but my dad's been in the hospital, and he just came home recently. But in the hospital, he had one good doctor on his cardiology team. I won't say his name. I had a very interesting conversation with him about a certain thing that happened 5 years now ago. And I was like, I wish my mother was in here to have that conversation with you. Because I told her, and she was like, no, your aunt's a doctor. I believe her. I trust her. I'm like, differences of opinion, but what he said was just like spot on.
You get what I'm saying? But there is this people have to be complicit with others' public or big public opinions, because if you go against it, there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with that.
Right.
And you don't want your reputation to be tarnished. People are scared to speak out about certain things.
Absolutely.
And I think that the takeaway for this episode is like, that's the same situation that might be going on about archaeological finds as well. Like what we experienced 4 or 5 years ago. I don't really have to say what it is. I guess people can interpret what we're saying. But I think that people are gatekeeping for a reason.
Well, that came out. There was another declassification this week about that. So anyways, Ark of the Covenant, astral projection, remote viewing.
I like it. It's a fun topic.
It's a fun topic.
And
when it gets biblical too, I kind of like it. You know who would have liked this? Dario. He would have been all about, you know what I mean? But, he believes it's real. I believe it's real. It's out there. The truth is out there.
Yeah.
The Ark is out there.
I'm not going to do it. We'll get copywritten. No, I was going to.
It has to be a certain amount of seconds. And if you whistle it, it's classified as a cover.
I don't even know if I can whistle it.
As a cover song. I've been reading the fine print since doing this podcast now. Next year, this December, will be 5 years doing the podcast. So I've been pretty on the A game of what's going to get me sued and what's not going to get me sued. But if you want to get sued on your very own podcast, we'd like to thank Spotify for Creators. If you don't know about Spotify for Creators, it's the free app that allows you to get your own podcast idea media
out there.
So if you have a phone, tablet, and or computer, head over to Spotify for Creators to get started. The truth is out there, Joe.
That was a slick segue into that,
right? I have
smooth.
a face for radio and a body like Nick now. Until next time, this
guy's going to be drinking protein shakes and pre-workout on the next podcast when Nick comes back.
Run around the block 6 times in the rain just to burn more calories. Where are we at today? 7:58. I'm a little behind.
Nick's going to be doing his notes like this. Yeah, today's episode on Nick's.
Nick might come back and be jealous at me.
You know,
he's like, "Yo, dude, this can't happen. I am the alpha." Everybody, hope you enjoyed. It's been head over to swab_podcast before I forget, so you can check out the reels that we post from this episode. Of course, all the great content, news updates, Joey's face, Nick when he comes back, and if you want to see my face, I'm on there too. Till next time, another episode. Say What Again, Billy podcast.
Later.